The Healing Spring Show, healing families and communities by breaking the stigma of addiction and expanding the scope of recovery. Now here's your host, John Edmonson.
Welcome back to the Healing Spring Show, and I'm very excited about this episode. It's the idea of taking a challenge and turning it into an opportunity. From asking, why is this happening, to how do I find my why in life? How do I find my purpose in it? Today we have Rachel Graham. She's a business owner, and she's the co-founder of Healing Springs Ranch, Evolve and Transform, and also LifeWorks Wellness. She's going to talk about a recent TED Talk she did on transforming a challenge into an opportunity. Rachel?
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks for being on this show.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
Yeah. So congratulations on the TED Talk. That was incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My first one.
First one. Got it out of the way.
A little scary. Got it out of the way. Learned some things about it. But all in all, it was a fabulous experience.
Yeah, so it looked like there was a lot of fun. I think you're going to have some Trek to TED videos coming out, The actual journey of getting from Texas all the way down to the TED Talk and presenting.
Yeah. As you mentioned, we went from Texas to South Carolina, to Andrews, South Carolina, to do this, and it was quite the experience. And we captured such amazing footage on what it looks like behind the scenes. Everyone sees the finished product of what it looks like. But in this scenario, we'll share some of the outtakes and the silliness getting there. Because it's very difficult to take a big message and compress it into about 15 minutes. Yeah. Which is the requirement. I think it's about 18 is the max you can do. So for me, that was the bigger challenge. I'm used to speaking and having more time. It was really challenging to get your message down to something that will pack a punch and leave the audience with a nugget to grasp onto that they can then apply in their life.
Yeah, and so tell us, your TED Talk, what was it specifically about?
It was about how addiction is really all of our issue. Whether you're a family member or you're someone that is struggling yourself, that addiction affects everybody. And the reality of it is that if you don't know someone now, you will at some point that's struggling, could be you. And, as we look at today's life and some of the challenges that are happening in our world, I think we're finding that there are more and more people that are turning to substances to cope with the unknown, what's going on in our world right now. So it's a big issue, and I think it's going to become a bigger issue as we get into more ambiguity about what's happening in the future with our world. That's
a great point, and let's definitely come back to that, is what's happening right now and how is that affecting addiction. Before we get to that, though, this TED Talk, I think, was something that was a passion of yours. I mean, the creating of Healing Springs Ranch, everything you're doing, the people that are viewing may not know some of your story, why you created it, and what this TED Talk and your mission is all about. Mm-hmm.
I have really given my life to this cause. So in my personal situation, we dealt with addiction in my family, and I had a loved one that struggled. And something I noticed in the process is that the family's often left behind, and they're going to be the ongoing support system. Right. So someone may go to treatment, but then they come back to the support system that doesn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to raise awareness about what addiction is, what it's not, and the reality of it is we all have work to do. If we're going to support someone that's going to be in recovery, a loved one, we have to do our own work, and sometimes that's difficult work to kind of look at what role did I play in this big play on TV, or on the stage out there. What do I need to address, and how can I be an incredibly healthy support system for someone else? So that's really what the mission was in that. And I am one person with one voice, but I've been convinced that I just need to keep using that voice and sing till I can sing no more, and share my experience through my own vulnerability and raise awareness so that we can remove the shame and stigma around addiction, because we all have compulsive behaviors, and any one of those could become problematic for us given the right set of circumstances.
Yeah, see, that's something I wanted to talk about. When people say addiction, right off the bat, they say drugs and alcohol. And they say, I don't have addiction, I don't have problems with drugs or alcohol. But when you speak, you say addiction itself. Can you talk more about that? What does that mean to you, to Rachel Graham?
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because most people do think it's some sort of substance that you ingest. Mm-hmm. But there is such a term as process addictions. And process addictions are something that we do compulsively that can become problems. And some of the things that people don't think about is gambling, spending, overeating, undereating. Video gaming is a big one that's out there now. So there's things that we do that can become destructive. They start out as maybe just normal life activities, and too much of them becomes problematic because it gets in the way with our life, really, and it interrupts relationships. It could create financial hardship, physiological, psychological challenges. And so oftentimes we don't even recognize when we're in an active, addictive state. With children, with the video games, when you pull a child off video games, you can tell physiologically, you can see the pupils dilated. And it's much like looking at someone that's on some sort of drug when you look at that. And it's very easy for the brain to rewire itself and crave more and more and more of whatever that is. And so too often we don't even recognize it till it's too late, till it's caused problems.
Wow. So you're changing the playing field. Literally.
Trying.
You're doing it.
Just one person with just one voice.
Well, one voice at a TED Talk. So when you were up there presenting, tell us a bit more about that topic itself. How was it personal or connected to you? Because I think it was a very meaningful, not just here's education, but here's a real story.
Yeah, I think in my world, if you look at my skill set, one of the things that I find, and this has been something since I was little, I love people and I meet people and people share with me and I share with them. And so in my TEDx talk, it was really a story. There was a couple stories embedded in the talk that were real stories that happened. One of which is someone on an airplane that I actually had the privilege of sitting next to that would have been an unlikely situation. I believe that there was some sort of divine intervention, if you will, that put us in the seats next to each other. So I share that in my TED Talk. And then I also share the fact that I have a new and amazing relationship with my loved one who went to treatment and struggled. And there's beauty in some of the ugly moments of life. So there was a number of underlying messages built into that TEDx that I wanted to share with people. That life's adversities can create some very powerful moments and help you find meaning and purpose in your life. That you never know who's sitting next to you that may need something from you, and maybe it's just an ear to listen or a shoulder to cry on. And how do you support someone that's coming out of treatment? And truthfully, what I hope kind of really wrapped it all up is that I learned compassion and forgiveness in my journey, and I found meaning and purpose through the compassion and forgiveness.
Wow. Rachel, that's a lot. That's a lot of power right there when you share compassion, forgiveness, the journey. And so through this, what you have found was that you developed a lot of things through your own experiences. And you said something that I really want to earmark, and maybe we can talk more about it, is the idea of, you said two things, beauty and purpose. And beauty and purpose out of adversity. Can you tell us a little more about that? I'm sure a lot of people viewing would like to hear it.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. Really and truly, I think too often in life, we kind of coast. We go to that next job because someone offered us a job and want us to go there. We go to that next relationship because this person's interested in me and I'm kind of attracted to him. We kind of coast through life and kind of go bounce around a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe not having absolute clarity on what it is we want from this lifetime. You only have one go at it. And so what I'm challenging people to do is don't wait for things to happen to you. Figure out what it is that you want and go get it. Whether it's career or personal, whatever it might be. And that takes some work, because too often, especially when we're young, we're in our 20s, we come out of a household with our parents. We have a lot of our parents' belief systems still embedded. You go into your 30s and 40s and you start figuring some things out. You start figuring out how I want to vote politically and how I want to see life and what my real thoughts are about that given topic. And then you get to your 50s and 60s and then you're like, wow, okay, I'm getting it now, I'm getting it. But what if you could bring that back and help people find that early on, or people that are 50 and 60 and don't know what their purpose is, and help them figure it out? Because it's really a spiritual and a soulful exercise to do, and it's an exercise that only you can do. I can't do it for someone, but I share the tools that I use that help me figure out really why I'm on this planet. I have such clarity now as to why I'm on this planet that truthfully, if it doesn't align with whatever that mission is for me, I don't do it. It makes it really easy to make choices and decisions around where do you spend your time, where do you spend your resources, money, those kinds of things. What is it that you want to do with your life? And for me, it's about carrying the banner in this world, but there is possibility that you can find exactly what you're supposed to be doing while you're on this planet. It's different for each one of us. And guess who knows the answer to that? Only that person. You can only know what your purpose is.
I thought I was going to go somewhere they're going to tell me.
And so what really, and this is why I went into coaching, is to help people figure that out. Too often, we don't even know where to start. We sit there and say, I'm just dissatisfied with this job. I'm dissatisfied with this relationship. And guess what we do? Oftentimes, we'll jump from one to another, and it's the same situation. Think about relationships. We don't like this in this relationship, but yet then we seek out someone who has the same kind of stuff. You know, that's why they say when you get divorced, don't date right away, because you're going to make the same mistakes.
Right.
So, but once you get clarity and you know exactly what it is, you can actually visualize it. You can make it happen. I think people don't realize the power that they have within their own mind. And I give the analogy oftentimes when I speak that if I decide I want to go buy a red car, when I leave here, guess what I'm going to notice on the street?
Red cars.
Every red car, because I pulled that to the front of my mind.
Right.
And so, and I'm looking because I'm thinking about it, and it's something I'm seeking, you know? So I encourage people to do some of these exercises, and it's really what I've built my whole message and platform around. In some cases, it's carried out at Healing Springs, which is in the world of addiction. In some cases, it's carried out through Evolve and Transform, which is really about evolving and transforming your life. You know, I did something during my darkest moments when I went through my life crisis with my loved one. I was on the floor. I didn't know what to do with myself. I was emotionally so broken. And one of the things that happened is those two words came to me, evolve and transform. And it's how I picked myself up. I said, girl, you're going to evolve and you're going to transform.
Wow.
And you're going to figure out what you're going to do. And then guess what? It's your job to hand that back to others. And that's why I picked that company name. I went and found the domain first, didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew that that had to be something in my future. And so that's really my gift back, is sharing that I went through the darkest days and found this purpose, and everybody else has the capability to. There's nothing unique about me. It's just the fact that I did the work. And I actually did a lot of the difficult analysis of the things I'm good at, the things I suck at. You have to get real with yourself. We know what those things are, but too often we want to present. I want to present to you who I think you want me to be.
Right.
You know, now I show up authentic. This is who I am, whether it's a job interview or if it were a relationship, you know, friendship, whatever it is. This is who I am. I want you to see all of me, even the parts you're probably not going to like, you know, because I want you to like the whole of me. I don't want you to like a part of me. And that's how most people live their life today. And I don't want to see that happen anymore.
This is a part of your story that is new for a lot of us, never heard before. This evolve and transform came out of a time of pain. And I've heard that. There's a presenter, Eckhart Tolle, the mindfulness kind of guru, so to speak, although he would never refer to himself that way. And he had mentioned that his enlightenment came through tremendous pain. That he'd worked for a long time, and then one moment it came like that. For you, it sounds like something very similar. You're in tremendous pain, literally on the floor. And I want to slow that down and earmark it, because there's probably people who are watching this who look really great on the outside, their business or physically or what's going on with them. They look wonderful, then they go home, they lay on the floor. Or they go home and they go to the kitchen, or they go home, they go to the bottle, or they go home and they go to the internet, and they're in pain. And what I'm hearing you say is, in those moments, that's the beauty. And that's when the transformation can happen. Is that right?
Yep. I think crisis and difficulties are really the catalyst to change. And too often as human beings, we don't like discomfort. We shy away from it. I don't want to change. I don't want to do that. It's going to be too painful to do that. You know, we don't want to change. But most of the time, that change reveals something bigger and greater, a lesson you're supposed to learn, even if it's a difficult problem, or some direction you need to head. And what I realized is I'm headed down the path of life, and I got off course. And when you get too far off course, you're going to get jerked back on, and it's going to be abrupt, and it's going to be rough, you know? And so I really, really, really want people to look at, where are you? Are you on the path? Are you off the path? And if you're off the path, then you need to get back on. This is where your clear meaning and purpose in life is. So how do we help you get from these side streets back onto the main highway?
And it's not something we could answer in one show. I mean, we definitely need a series.
Oh, Lord. I mean,
several to get through it, because that's, I mean, just covering those pieces is powerful in itself. So what are some of the basic hows? I mean, just kind of to tease out what people could look for as we do this series together.
Yeah, so, you know, I think we would start somewhere with identifying our lockbox.
Okay.
And so people say, what's a lockbox?
Yeah,
and
what's
it's
that mean?
Something that I've coined in that it's where we store all of our secrets, the things we don't want to share with other people, because you might not like me if you knew this thing about me. So we shove it in the lockbox, we close it, and we put a lid on it, and we lock it up, and then only until we want to go back in and use whatever that is or add to it, add some new stuff to it, do we open it up. And so my goal is to have everybody inventory their lockbox and then figure out how to unpack that lockbox to make them healthier and happier. Because I'll tell you that at the root of the behaviors with an addiction or compulsive behaviors is shame. And that's what's really inside that lockbox, all the things I'm ashamed of. And so I want to start by allowing people the freedom to look at it, to open it up, and to release all that stuff. And if you don't like me for who I am, then you aren't supposed to be in my life anyway. And I'm okay with that. Doesn't mean I don't like you. And doesn't mean I've lost respect for you. It just means it's not what's supposed to happen.
We're not a good fit.
Yeah. And that's okay. And I think too often we want to be accepted. And we do too many things to compromise really who we are just for the sake of acceptance. So that's what I would encourage. The first thing, the first step is let's see what we're dealing with, you know, and then let's talk about what you're unhappy about, you know, and maybe some of the relationship dynamics. You know, I speak on tons of different topics. They range from drama triangle to the lockbox to understanding your emotions, to understanding different aspects of meaning and purpose, to figuring out your personal purpose statement and why you're here. So I speak on a number of different topics. And so I think if you want to, we can build on some of these different things and do it in a sequential step that might help others kind of follow along in bite-sized chunks and hopefully circumvent the time it took me to figure all these things out by just sharing these are the things that worked, take it, leave it. But I'll tell you, you can get from here to here a little quicker.
So we started talking a little bit about the TED Talk and going through that process, and then a little bit about Healing Springs Ranch. And you formed that. You helped create it with a partner, Melissa Carwell-Engel. Can you talk a little bit about that experience? Because here we are on the Healing Springs show. Where did that all come from?
So actually we have several partners that were involved in bringing this to life. Melissa and I are the only two that are actually in the business on a daily basis. But, you know, we met by a unique set of circumstances. I met the whole team, and we were all at different crossroads in our life. You know, Melissa actually was treating people that were struggling with addiction. I was a family member of someone that struggled. We had some other partners that had other family members or friends that struggled. And so we all had a connection to the addiction field in some way. So we're coming in it from different avenues to the same hub that we met at. Well, when we started looking at it, one of the things I was passionate about is I felt like there was a better way to help people. You need to do the work in terms of, you know, the recovery aspects and helping someone understanding why they're where they are. And so Melissa came at it from a trauma standpoint. I came at it from, we can do all of that. But if we don't help these people on a go-forward basis figure out what it is that they want to do, there's a chance that the relapse opportunity is greater, I would say. So what we do is really the whole purpose, or the whole person, and looking at wellness, looking at mindfulness, some of the things that you do there. We look at the food that goes into these individuals. We look at the therapy that we do. We look at their personality, how they communicate, things like that they need to be aware of. And then we look at their strengths. Because I give the analogy, too often in life, we try to do things that we're going to be frustrated. And I use the example in the class that I teach at Healing Springs that if I wanted to be a 25-year-old Chinese supermodel, 6-foot-tall supermodel, and I was living my whole life trying to be that, I'd be frustrated. It's never going to happen because that's not what I was supposed to be doing. And so when we focus on these things that are very difficult and they're not happening for us, it may be because that's not what you're supposed to be doing and you're off the path, you're off the highway, you're on a side street, get back on. So that's what we do at Healing Springs that differentiates us from just, you know, I would say what other addiction facilities do or treatment facilities do is that we're really looking at different people and we're meeting you where you are. And we're helping you craft a plan for you because we're not going to sit there and tell you who you should be and what you should do. We're going to give you the tools to be successful. It's up to you to deploy them. So I serve in a coaching role. So if you think about therapist and counseling, that is if you're driving a car. And the individual, say that the individual seeking help is driving the car. A therapist is in the seat next to them saying, okay, here's where we are, how did we get here? And we look at some of the behavior patterns, decisions that were made and whatnot. So then someone like me, a coach says, okay, we're here, where is it you want to go? And so then my role is to help them figure out where it is they want to go, not tell them what I think they should be doing, help them figure out where they want to go. So it's a little different. Even a mentor, if you put a mentor in that seat, a mentor is going to teach someone how to get from here to here based on their own experiences, right? I have been from this point you're at and the point you want to go to, so let me tell you the roads you need to take. You know, and then you look at a consultant, a role a consultant's playing, and consultant is actually coming and identifying, you know what, you're not on the right course, you need to be over here. And so let me help you figure out how to get here. So there's different types of roles that people can play in helping someone get from wherever they are to where they want to be. And so that's really what we bring to the table with our clients. And I think our clients will attest that it's, and we hear this all the time, there's no place like this around. And it's because we feel very fortunate. The addiction problem got them to us, but the reality, that's not what we're treating. We're helping someone get from one destination to another, finding meaning, purpose, and being a healthier version of themselves.
And that's powerful. Just the idea of, you said it a couple of different ways, you're always pointing back to that person. And what you're saying is your mind is much more powerful than you think. You gave the red car example. And that was huge because that's so true for all of us. We begin to think about whatever it could be. Now, there's probably people who watch the show that are looking for red cars. They're going to see it. Right?
Sorry. It's like the song. If I were to sing a song, it'd be in your head the rest of the day.
Yeah, it just keeps staying with you. And then you hear it again and again. So then you talked about this idea of it's in you. It's in you. And that's so different from many cases what we hear. A lot of well-intended individuals, they coach or they have these books that come out that say, here's the way to think. Here's the model. Here's the idea. And you're saying, here's a couple of different ways. You got to figure that out.
Right.
And you're believing in them. And that's a little bit of a differentiation. You're not saying, hey, come believe in me. You're saying, I believe in you.
Yeah. And only you have those answers. I think as parents, that's a mistake we make oftentimes as parents. We want to tell our kids how to do certain things. And maybe what we need to do is introduce them to a number of tools and let them figure out how to use those tools to be who they're supposed to be, not who we want them to be.
Have you ever seen that happen when you're working with clients?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think at the heart of addiction and the different things that we see and the trauma behind that is an embedded sense of self-worth, negative self-worth, that comes from either not achieving what someone else needed for them or feeling less than and being treated, and maybe there's verbal abuse, physical abuse, maybe there's other things involved. Sure. And really it's at the heart of self-esteem and not believing in themselves. And one of the things that I share, and I shared this in my TEDx, and this is something I feel very passionate about, and I want everyone to know that if you know someone that's struggling with addiction, one of the things you probably don't know is the beautiful person that's on the inside. That if they could make the choice to get rid of this, they would, but it's become too big for them to manage, you know, physiologically and psychologically. And not only is there an amazing person underneath that, their EQ is likely off the chart, their IQ is likely off the chart, and they experience life in a way that's different than most people, in that they're more sensitive to the energy in a room, or to the way someone's talking, or just even the decibels of the person's voice, the inflection, those kinds of things. I don't mean sensitive like they're going to cry. They're more sensitive to those things, and they pick up on things. Yeah. And it's really hard to dispel some of that sometimes. And so sometimes it's easier to turn to a substance, behavior, or something to cope. And we're seeing that now. With this virus situation, we're seeing that, where people are turning to things that they never probably would have predicted they would do. But it's because they don't know how to cope with the stress or the anxiety of the things that are happening in the world today, that may be happening at a global level or even at their personal level in terms of economically related to jobs, the loss of jobs, those types of things.
A beautiful person on the inside. We started with every problem is a beautiful opportunity, and now you're saying the people with problems have a beauty on the inside. And if we can get to that, it'd be incredible.
Yeah. And let them show the rest of the world that, and let that person come out. And let's get rid of, I mentioned to you forgiveness. You know, we're going to forgive the things that happen. And forgiveness is the misconception around that is people think, I'm not going to forgive that person. They did this, this, and this, and this, and this. And it's like, that's a lower level of thinking. A higher level of thinking is saying, you know what, I am not going to allow myself to be tethered to that story and let that story or that person have power over me. That's what forgiveness is. It doesn't mean you forget, but I'm choosing and I'm making a conscious decision not to be tied to this and let this continue to impact me in an adverse way. that then I might make some bad life choices because I'm so angry at you and I want to punish you and I live in a state of anger and I make a lot of bad choices and I might medicate in bad ways.
Yeah, and so literally you're saying evolve. You have to evolve to forgive. And I think that's a very good point. Some people try to only think their way through it, and you're saying it's more than just thinking, it's becoming. And then you can transform.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you're the only person with that power. No one can want it for you. You're the only person with that power.
And it's within us, not out there.
Yep. And
So-
I think you hear in addiction too, they talk about finding an outward solution to an inward problem. You know? So let's start with an inward solution to that inward problem.
So I was about to ask, if you're going to speak to someone who is suffering this moment, what would you say? And you just said it. Find that inward solution.
It doesn't cost money. It doesn't cost, it requires you to sit and think and be objective with yourself and to be honest, brutally honest with yourself. We often know the real answer and we want to sometimes play the games in our head. We want to believe our own story, maybe an inaccurate story. I cleaned it up for this show. But we want to subscribe to our own stuff.
Thank you for the clean.
Yeah, and you know, and we spend a lot of time being someone we're not. It's common. Because we lack the clarity of knowing where it is we want to go and what is my true meaning and purpose. And if you don't fit into my life's puzzle, that's okay. I don't have to not like you. I can like and respect you and just know that that's not where I'm supposed to be. Here's where I'm supposed to be.
So if you were going to say, as we come to close on this show, it's been a great show.
Thank you.
There's so much to cover, so we're definitely going to do a series. And look at this. I'm yay over here. This is amazing. I'm learning so much. So with the lockbox, you talked about that, maybe part of the series, finding your purpose, going deeper into that. I'm sure there's much more that'll come out as we do this. It's exciting.
Thank you.
And no, thank you, because there's people who are in a lot of suffering right now, as you said, and they need to hear your voice. And they need to hear someone say what you said, Rachel, which is, it's inside of you. A lot of people are going out there and they're looking for the answers, and you're pointing them back to themselves, and we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So how do we find you, by the way? Are you on YouTube or?
Yes, I have a YouTube channel, Evolve and Transform. There's some material out there that I encourage everyone to go watch. I'm at Healing Springs Ranch. And so we've got a number of different podcasts out there and information, industry information that I encourage people to go look at. Because reality is, I started in the world of addiction, but it's not just about addiction. At the end of the day, we all have some sort of thing that we could be addicted to at some point. This is really about understanding why we resort to these things. Again, outward solution to an inward problem.
Yeah, and I heard a client say it the other day, and it's part of one of the companies that you founded, the LifeWorks. They were going through at Healing Springs, and they're going through some issues, and they paused and they go, you know what? I don't think I'm just doing recovery work. I'm doing life work. I was like, wow. And that was the title you gave to that company, is LifeWorks Wellness. So it's powerful how we can transition from starting with a nightmare and then looking at what our dreams are and how to make them come true.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that. LifeWorks is designed for anyone that needs to get from here to here. And whatever that may entail for them. It could be that they're just having family dynamic problems. It could be that I'm frustrated by the place I'm in life. I want to be somewhere else. I thought by this age, you hear this a lot, by this age I thought I'd be somewhere else. Okay, well, it's never too late to start and figure out where that someplace else is. And let's understand, what is that you envision for yourself?
Yeah, becoming a purpose finder or a purpose seeker.
Yeah, purpose seeker. I love that.
That's
I love
cool,
that
yeah.
word. I love that.
Yeah, so Rachel Graham, purpose seeker, formed multiple companies, has helped a lot of people and continues her journey. And I invite you to go look at her YouTube channel, look at Evolve and Transform, and we're going to do a series on the Healing Springs Show to learn more about this. And we'll see you next time.